Hey everybody, welcome to episode 156, I think, probably, of Tactical Crouch. This is KickedTripod here with Yiska and Volamel, and special guest and APAC expert, Kenobi, coming on. You know, the last time I think that this group has been assembled, that hasn't been a game night. Actually, Yiska might not have been there, but I know Joe, Kenobi, and myself, we did Chinese Contenders Season 2 back in the day.
That was the first one. Well, the first English broadcast one, at least.
I remember that. That was a lot of fun. I knew nothing. Still do. Still do.
That's why I'm here.
Yep. That's why you're here.
Fill us in.
Yeah, so we've got a lot to talk about today. A ton of APAC stuff. A lot of viewers have noticed, and we have not been shy about saying, like, we try to just talk about kind of the main roster moves every week, but we don't actually because the roster moves are kind of, I think, more understated in the Asia region. We didn't really get to spend as much time with them versus a lot of the Western teams that were undergoing huge rebuilds and structural changes. So, but this is the week to go back and talk about the APAC region. We're going to talk a little bit about the APAC Gauntlet finish, and then we're going to talk about all the APAC teams, see how they're stacking up. Before we do that, though, Yiska, bro, you put out some power rankings this past week.
Yeah, people have been surprisingly okay with them, I feel like.
Which I know is really important to you. I know it's really important that people agree with your opinions.
Absolutely, yes. To my mental health, actually. But yeah, no, I think I definitely had some spicy takes in there.
What does Reddit say? That's really what we need to know. What is the good old Compo W think of your power rankings?
It's been pretty. Let me summarize it for you.
Right.
Here you go.
Okay.
It's actually been really good, but there's always one or two comments that are just downvoted to oblivion. And there are always people who are whining about where their teams were placed. And they've even got the matching flare. Like, they're not even ashamed about, like, where the bias lies. I almost want to pull that one up. Was
it really a Dallas fan?
It was really a Dallas fan.
Love that.
Let me see if I can find it.
The thing is, the Dallas people, I understand, because, like, I think reputationally, that backline is considered to be very good. Just when you start talking to people inside the Overwatch League, that perception quickly dwindles to the point where I'm now convinced that, for instance, Washington has a better backline. So, I understand that then people are mad about Dallas only being fifth, but
I mean, do you even have to talk to people to even, like, kind of start to see that argument?
Though I have it. Here it is. Here's the comment. I'm so. By the way, I'm sorry. So generally speaking, this, like, we won't throw you on blast unless you do it on purpose. Like, there are some people in our Discord who purposely say things because they want us to. We have a hot takes channel and we keep track of them and we go back and make fun of them later, and it's all in good fun.
Oh, we should do an episode dedicated to hot takes.
I have
that's like an end of the year. That's an end of the year thing.
I have a
I know PT has his folder.
I have a
I know you got the folder.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. Gotta break that out. All right, continue. Sorry.
So here is the one for Yiska's 4 to 6. Where did you put Dallas in 4 to 6? Do you put him at 6?
5, I think.
5.
6 was Toronto.
This is from they have the fusion flare. So they say, actually, I think I can probably pull this up on. Yeah, perfect. LMAO. The only reasons Dallas is 5 are, and I'm verbatim, that's how they said, the only reasons Dallas is 5 are Yiska thinks he knows more than Rush. How will Fearless deal with him being the only main tank, forgetting the fact that Rush made Ben Best into a top-level Rhine and Orisa, so he can do the same with Fearless? And how much of Paris's success came from Rush and not 9K? Forgetting his EM time and the fact that you can say this about 9K as well. What a fucking joke.
Yeah. Compo W, everyone. It's just...
Got him.
Sometimes it is just that. It just be like that sometimes.
That's a fan. I don't know. I don't mind it as much. It's just obviously not the case why I made that argument. But, yeah.
That's more of it. It's just like, why didn't you just address the arguments on its merits? So project how like Yiska's mindset is, because let's be real, nobody here, including Joe and I, who have done 150 episodes with this guy, we still don't know where his head's at. It's like
it's like a Rubik's cube. It's just in there. It's just like
it's just so disheartening when you make like this was 10,500 words. And then the placement, not the range, but the placement is what people take issue with. Where it's like,
but that's the thing. Like, no matter how many qualifiers, no many, however many asterisks you want to give it, somebody's always going to take issue with it.
Yep.
I think. It doesn't matter.
And then one of my favorite people, and I think we have an okay relationship now, from You Hate I, who also has Fuel Flare, says, yes, please keep underrating us. No one will expect us when we drop the heat next year.
Oh,
it's like, bro,
I hope they do.
You're fifth. Yeah. It's like not you're fifth out
of
13.
That's fantastic for Dallas.
So a couple of years, like last year, I think at the start of season 2, when Valiant lost Soon, I said that like Soon was like a big loss, and I think I've told Joe this story before. Soon was like a big loss, I think, and I said like Valiant wouldn't perform as well as they did at the end of season 1, and that they'd probably be like a playoff team. People got mad that I said that they would be a playoff team.
Yeah.
I said they'd be a playoff team, but I said that losing Soon was a big deal, and then people like jumped on it like, no, you're wrong. We have Fate, who's like a World Cup champion. We have all these players, and then Valiant proceeded to go 0-7 in stage 1.
World Cup, baby.
I was wrong because they weren't even a playoff team. They were worse.
Yeah.
We also got a comment this last week about Boston. About our
I thought we were pretty positive.
Yeah,
and I did too. Boston. Like it was just, and so we had this, I thought was a really nuanced and interesting discussion. We got a lot of great feedback on it about how they really liked how we addressed not just what Soon means for Boston. And of course, we're going to talk about where we think that they're going to rank once teams, have at least their 7-man rosters locked in. But we don't really talk a whole lot about results all that much, unless there's not much else to talk about them. And so we need some filler content to talk about them. So we essentially posed this question, Kenobi, where we said, where we talked about kind of fan allegiances, and some franchises have fan allegiances because of the franchise itself. Where, like I would say like Florida, NYXL, or a couple where they're just fans of the franchises, and there's a good chance that regardless of who's on that roster within reason, they'll still be fans of the franchise. And then there's people who are fans of the teams because of the players who are on the teams. So they're a fan of very specific players. Like maybe they're Sabioli fans, and now all of a sudden they're Dynasty fans because he's not on
like
NYXL
LeBron
anymore.
fans, essentially.
We talked about this from the perspective of Soon and why he would go to Boston, a team that doesn't have great results outside of their season 1 results. They haven't been very good at all, and their fan base is definitely really split on why that is, whose fault it is, where their trajectory is going. I mean, I have, 4 or 5 pages of Google Doc screenshots from every time we've rated Boston and said things about them that, talk about how wrong we were, and we ended up being right or closer to right. But the idea is, when you bring in a player like Soon, if Boston loses, is it more detrimental to Boston's career or Boston's as a franchise or Soon's career to be on the losing team? And we kind of just said like it's probably more detrimental to Boston because people just love Soon for Soon. He's been on some good rosters before and not so great rosters before, and people just generally like him. And that's where this whole conversation was. Very like, let's just talk about, you know, the Soon effect on Boston and what it means. And somebody just couldn't handle it.
Really? What'd they say? I'm interested.
They couldn't. Let me see. I want to pull it up because I don't want to put, because I'm worried that I will be guilty of doing the same thing that they kind of did to us, where they kind of put words in their mouth, and that's not what I want.
That's fair.
By the way, to all the guys that are currently slagging, happy delayed Christmas to you guys. Hope you're having a great 2021, but you're getting it at the end of the year. That's how it works, apparently.
So it was on Yiska's 11 to 13 powered ranking. I posted, and so it begins ... on it, and this person replies and says it's uncharacteristically generous towards Boston for you guys that they're not ranked this low. After all, your last podcast had all three of you prematurely raging at Boston for 20 minutes for ruining Soon's career through the single act of signing him.
So weird. It's so weird.
Very interesting. I remember the question being posed quite differently than premature rage.
Yeah.
But
so
what do
you guys don't rage that often. Like, well, okay.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Yeah.
So anyways, we got to take
the last time I remember it was like hero pools.
Oh, true. Big rage.
But anyways, it was just, and they kind of backed it up towards the end. It's just like, I don't mean to come out across as overly grumpy, happy holidays. And I get like defending your team, and you have every right to defend your team. However,
100%.
the you want, I don't care. I have the right of being on a podcast and making fun of it.
You have a platform.
100%.
The thing is, fair to Alpha Trion for like being willing to admit that they made a mistake and sort of like walking that back.
Self-awareness is
I don't mind, dude. Like when people, there's just an Achilles heel that everyone has towards their favorite things, like friends, teams,
of course.
Yeah,
Chinese
Overwatch, as we will soon find out. That it's just like, that's just human nature, dude. Like, it's just like sometimes you gotta have dumb spots. You gotta have dumb opinions about something. Like you can't always be correct. That's boring. Like give me some sugar.
I have a fun time being correct all the time. And being dumb while doing it.
How does he do it?
Can we
do it?
Can we ask Katie about this? Can we get an expert opinion on that one?
She's
yeah.
She's predisposed at the moment. Yeah. Anyways, it's all in good fun. Please tell us your hot dumb takes.
Oh yeah.
Your personal ones, and like and we can make it even a fun thing.
But okay, don't post the worst things your brain can come up with that we know you don't actually mean.
Yeah.
Give us the real ones, because it's like
you believe
these are the lamest. Like
real
honestly, like I really loved, like, if you guys think back, this stuff that Peak did with Sideshow, this rage stuff, right? That was amazing, but the takes became more and more ridiculous.
They were playing a game at that point.
Yeah,
like, how can I get on the show by saying the most ridiculous thing possible?
No fake hot takes.
You gotta mean it, dude. Like, put some, like, if you, I don't know how you do it, but like make it so that there's like, I don't know, $10 on it. Like, if
I have one of those later, probably, actually.
Put some skin in the game in some way, right? Like,
there's going to be a couple of those maybe today, so you're going to get some
of that.
Yeah.
Chinese hot takes.
It's okay. It's okay to defend your team, and it's okay to be right. It's okay to be wrong.
It is. I think we all need to be better at being wrong. It's okay.
I mean, it's like
I just need more practice, man. I just need more practice.
I just gotta miss more, man. I gotta catch some L's.
That's always been like told. It's like you need to be okay with being wrong, which is like something that's very hard to.
It's
kind of hard to stomach. Yeah. Especially as a color caster, because you want to be right all the time, but like you have to be okay with not being not being the smartest in the room at one point.
That's so beautiful though, because like when you say something really dumb, it's like you're this metal that's bent in a specific way that's sort of like broken, and then like this mistake gives you the heat where you can like straighten it out
back,
where you're just like feeling so bad. It's like you like the first emotion is just like to be defensive about it and go like, no, you're wrong. But it hurts. It hits you in the soul. It just gives you a little punch where you're like,
it does.
Damn it. There's something true about this. Like, and then you can change yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, totally can. You got to be malleable.
True.
All said.
Chinese Overwatch, eh?
But how about it?
How about it?
Pretty good.
Let's do the thing. Before we do, big thanks to our Patreon producers, though. Refine Bean from Dino Pin, Battle Crab, Lolston, Rex Zane, Audio Compass, Kasha67, Shara Picasso, Nathan Muir, Misery, Hunter Tane, Fabled Steven, Roger B, Owen, Chris R34444, Horbjorn. I listen to this podcast whilst on the toilet and in the shower thinking of Yiska, Peace Camper, Anxiety Pokemon, Sir Girthalot, Bronzebot, Boohow, Evan, and Alex S. You okay?
I almost spit out my water at Sir Girth's a lot. That was
Sir
that one caught me off guard.
We had
That one caught
Shrek
me
2 on DVD.
We had Shrek 2 on DVD.
I love
for
that
a while.
one.
That was great.
Yeah.
That is good.
Thank you so much for supporting the show, and thank you to Yiska for not letting us do any game nights ever. I'm kidding.
True. I'm on demon time, but like my sleeping schedule is completely Americanized. Like I said in Discord until 8:30 yesterday, just talking about the world. So I'm pretty good doing it maybe sometime early Gen. Right.
Let's do it.
I think we're up to 3. I think we owe 3.
Yeah, we've got some backlogs we owe you.
Can do Mythic Plus with us and carry us. That's.
I was gonna say. So I know Yiska, you're level 60 now on your Horde character.
Yep.
Joe, are you 60 Horde? Or are you all Alliance now? Still?
I'm 49 Horde. I have a 49 Horde Paladin, so we're working on it. We're getting there.
I have a 60 Horde.
If there are people who want to do some tactical crouch type, WoW type stuff, I can absolutely set up a little guild for us to be. We wouldn't be like raiding or doing anything else, but it'd be just a great way for viewers to kind of hang out and other people in the community to hang out, play games together, do that kind of stuff. If you're interested in that, we're on Bleeding Hollow, but you don't have to be on Bleeding Hollow to play with us. Obviously, you just have to be Horde.
Yep.
Would love to do it. Join Discord, discord.me/Yiska out. And you know what, Yiska? Just because I didn't think this through and there's no place to post.
We got a WoW Squad channel.
Do we?
Yeah.
Where?
Oh, I didn't know.
It's not open.
Oh,
It's not open yet.
That would explain it.
Oh, I'm not even
closed
invited to
like
it.
mods or whatever.
No, you're admin. You should be able to see it, right? It's like directly on the announcements.
Oh, why is it all the way up?
Kenobi.
I don't know why it's there, but
All right.
Oh, yeah,
Anyways, maybe we'll make that public so anybody can join. But
possibly.
Anyways, we would love to. We'd love to play with you. Maybe we'll do it. It'd be fun because I've thoroughly enjoyed our game nights. We have a lot of cool viewers and
True.
Dude, you know what would be really fun?
What?
Like a 2v2 like war games tournament.
No. Shadow
So
Priest. I
funny.
just get stunned, locked.
Yeah,
I mean,
Shadow
we can
Lock.
do threes.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Then I surrender to madness and just like hope. Because then I finally
That's
don't
like
have
that
to...
one. That's like that one raid. I think I forget what it's called, but the one where you have to go fight someone else sometimes.
Oh, what is that? It's not Plaguefall. It's Theater Pain.
Yeah, that one. I just get shadow locked and just I can't do anything.
Oh, I just mind games, devouring plague, fear. Done.
Oh yeah. I mean, I go hard when I go in that thing. Like I all cooldowns. I don't care about the DPS on the boss. I'm just there to beat you.
All
Fun
right,
boss.
back to Overwatch. Big thank you to Patreon producers.
Yes.
Thank you for supporting the show. Let's play WoW together and other games. Patreon.com/tacticalcrouch if you want to support. All right, APAC Gauntlet. It's a thing.
It was a thing.
It happened.
It did.
And who won, Kenobi?
Team CC won.
That's right.
They did. And it was, I mean, I was nervous going in because there was a lot of, obviously I'm very tied to the Chinese Overwatch scene. And last year I had to deal with LG Huya being absolute fucking awful in international play between Asia, like Pacific Showdown, and between Gauntlet, where they didn't even win a map at all. Like they didn't win a map in
True.
Gauntlet, I remember from last year. So I've had to live with that kind of for a year as like China being this meme, because I think we even sent our worst team probably out of the group of good teams in China at the time. LG who just got super lucky, I think, with the meta. But yeah, so I've had to live with that for a while, and then to have Team CC not only win, but win, I'd say pretty convincingly. They only dropped one map in a series. I don't think they ever they lost more than two from what I can recall. And it was against like most of the good Korean teams, like WGS they beat Genji twice. They beat Runaway. They beat EM. Like every person that was thrown at them from Korea, they beat. And I think that they probably have, at this point, the best contenders team, like overall.
So you think that if you were to take all of the regional winners, be it, I think it was American Tornado, British Hurricane, Team CC, and you put them in a pot and let them play a best of 100, do you think that Team CC would reign victorious?
I mean, in the current meta, so when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about it as being like the meta that was played on Gauntlet patch, which is like Ball Sigma, Tracer, Echo, Ashe, Zen Mercy or Zen Brig. I didn't depending on which one. All of those characters or heroes rather, Team CC is the best at. Like Ball, you have Gaga, the best, I think probably right now the best Ball in the world besides Ameng. LiGe, who had a very phenomenal Gauntlet, I think, on Sigma for the majority of it. And I think actually LiGe, side tangent, played up to his contract, because I think the Spark contract was pretty contested from what I heard. Like there was actually some money going around for LiGe, and I think he played up to that in Gauntlet.
Oh, okay.
Diya, we'll get to him later, but phenomenal on Ashe, just really excellent hitscan player. Tracer Innovation had a really good a very good Gauntlet, I think. And then you have Spectra on the back end, who, like, if they need to play Echo, they just bring in Spectra, who's just a really good Echo player and just projectile. And then Zen 1987's cracked. Super Rich is really good at Mercy. So like every box is checked for this team if it's this meta. If it's a different meta, then I have to question, because there are some metas that Team CC struggle with, like the Sombra meta, I think is why they lost their golden year, because of the fact that they had to play through the Sombra meta. Innovation Sombra leaves a lot to be desired, because he's kind of playing with half the character, because EMPs, when Innovation are using them, not very good. And I think it's, whenever I look back at it, I think it's like a him problem, because whenever I look at it, it's usually him initiating with EMP, but there's no one there to follow up in a lot of these situations. So I think if it was to go to a meta like that, they don't cover that base, but any other meta besides that, I think they're fine in. Like if it's Rush, you just put Innovation on Mei, or you play Spectra. Like I think any other meta besides like a Sombra centric meta, I think they'd still win.
When it comes to Innovation, I definitely see mixed signals with people's evaluations with him, because I felt like the start to the finals, he was very, very quiet, to a point where
Stalker was pretty much like,
it was.
Yeah.
I'm not big on Innovation. He seems very hit or miss. I think you can't ignore him towards the end of the final, where he absolutely was popping off, and credit to him. He's a name that definitely has been around China for a long time, but never really kind of stuck out. And it was weird to see so much just unquestioned support towards him, and him having just such a good final. So does that resonate with you? Is he, or has he been as inconsistent as it seemed like he was in the final?
So
these last few years, rather.
Well, so Innovation's the biggest issue with him is that he doesn't have a hero pool. He has a hero puddle. And it's it's very much, you play Tracer, you play Mei, and you can play Sombra, but the Sombra needs work. I think Innovation, to take that next step, needs to have a little bit more in his hero pool, because the Tracer, credit to Tracer. The Tracer is phenomenal. I think it's the best in China, hands down.
Okay.
All things considered, I think during the regular season he showed that. Like I said, the finals where you did see, I think he hadn't played up against a Tracer like Stalker. I think like basically the whole year. I don't think like Stalker is like another level of Tracer compared to what he played against, like even beforehand against like the other Korean teams, because Stalker is just that good. And then I think as you saw him like kind of warm up in that grand final, like he absolutely is cracked on that character, on like Tracer. If you need like a Tracer specialist, which is kind of a role that's dying a little bit, then I think you definitely can take Innovation, but you have to be okay with the fact that you can really only play the Tracer and the Mei, and then maybe a Sombra on top of that. Like this is very much a like not a Swiss Army knife player. It's very much like a specialist. So when I look at Innovation, that's the biggest issue that I have with him going to the next level is that hero pool, because it's not very large. But the heroes that he's good at, he's really freaking good at. Like that Tracer is the best in China. Hands down, it's not even close a lot of the time. Like he's the best Tracer on that team. Like Diya is probably the second best Tracer in China, and Innovation is better than he is.
You'd say Diya is better than Pineapple
on Tracer?
Yeah. Interesting.
I mean,
I haven't followed China in a very, very hot minute. But
Diya is really good. Pineapple's sick. We'll get to Pineapple later, but
later or right now.
Pineapple is really good.
What's up with Pineapple?
I think he's KT's like, didn't we have show notes for a reason?
No, because this is like, you know, and I am very willfully ignorant of the Asia region, so like I'm not driving this conversation. It's just
so definitely maybe to kind of John's point, like maybe a little history lesson on who some of these more niche players are. So like, who is Pineapple? What does he do? And
Pineapple is like a very new player coming in from T1W, who I believe joined at the end of last year or at the start of this year. I think they're like close, the same thing, but he comes out of like nowhere because T1W is had to put some players back in because of who they lost. So they bring in Pineapple, who just comes in and is just like this hit scan god, has to kind of sit out a season because, and when I say sit out, he played, but T1W had this issue where they had this player called Misha who was a Doomfist one trick, and T1W decided the best way to win was to just play Doomfist earlier this year, and remember that Doomfist was not good earlier this year and hasn't been good for a very long time. So T1W sucked in season 1. We're horrible. Probably one of the worst performances from like a good team I've ever seen. And then this season, when they could actually like play hit scan and Pineapple could like be unleashed because they didn't have to worry about Misha being on Doomfist, being a one trick, Pineapple actually performed like incredibly well on like Ashe, on Tracer, on any hit scan role that he played. So he is like, I think at the current moment there is like this rebirth or a renaissance of like good Chinese hit scan players, because it's something that we haven't had in a very long time in the region. This is like probably the best crop of hit scan talent we've had from China, and Pineapple is part of that.
Just kind of towards the bottom of the pack feels a little aggressive, but just on the end of that list.
Oh, I think he's like up there. Like he's
right on the like the cream of the crop of this.
Yeah, if you had to like give me like a top 5, he's like 3 or 2. Like he's up towards there.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Very good. Any other names? I mean, we're already here, so we might as well. Any other names from China that you think are? Obviously, we have the Team Cat guys who we'll get to, but any other names? I think Chengdu's academy team was it Team Chaser has a couple.
Yeah. Team Chaser, Aprita and Monk are. Well, Aprita, the other thing about him is he's like a very much a Tracer specialist. I haven't seen him play too much else. Monk though is cracked. Monk is the next like good flex support coming out of China. Dude's crazy. I think he's definitely at some point going to be an owl. I think the rest of that Team Chaser team is not. It's like it's okay. It's not.
And those two players come from Flag.
They are 100% without a doubt the reason that Flag won season 2. If those two players aren't on that team, which is what we saw at Gauntlet, they don't win anything. Because of the fact that like Ball Sigma meta was very like enabling of Tracers and of Zenyatta's, where you could just be cracked and you could like basically 2v6, which is what Aprita and Monk did, and beat a team of like 6 like owl caliber players, I'd say. So overall, I think Aprita and Monk. Aprita, I need to see more of him again from his hero pool. And from Monk, I think send that guy to Owl whenever you can. Dude's absolutely insane on anything he plays.
Are there any age limitations to any of the players we've talked about? Is there any
Pineapple is 17, I believe.
Yeah.
Let me check really quick about because Wikipedia, something that they do is the ages aren't usually right sometimes with a lot of Chinese players because they don't know.
Yeah.
So I believe Aprita and Monk. I think Monk, from what I can remember, is of age. I can. Yeah, he's 19. It says he's. Preface this by it says he's 19 on Wikipedia. That could totally be wrong, because they have a tendency to be wrong on their on the ages. I believe Aprita doesn't even have an age here, so I don't know. But yeah, I think those are two guys who would definitely Aprita for sure, or Monk for sure rather, goes to Al whenever they can bring him back up.
So there's one name that there's a few names on Team CC that still kind of escape me as to why they are not on an Overwatch League contract as of yet. I think Diya is the go-to, but Super Rich had a fantastic tournament.
I don't understand. I
think the league is definitely hurting for main supports. Is there any idea as to why Super Rich might not be on, a Chengdu in the future, or maybe even like coming into the midseason? It's something that Yiska has definitely postulated on that, maybe midseason sees a much more, with this season in particular, with how, COVID's affecting things and whatnot. Maybe we see some, midseason pickups more so than we've seen in the past. Do you think is there any reason as to why Super Rich might not be picked up? And do you think, or where do you think he might land?
So the funny thing about Super Rich is he does not have visa issues. Okay. He can go to anywhere. He can go anywhere, which is something that Chinese players actually don't have a lot of luxury of. A lot of the time is that they are pigeonholed into 4 teams, essentially, right? Which is the Chinese teams. They can't really go anywhere else. Super Rich does not have that problem because, remember, I think it was, I think there was a rumor that like Super Rich got very far in like the Boston trials last season.
Right. There was definitely, I think his name was being thrown around quite a lot.
That was like a NGA rumor, I think, more than anything, which is like the NGA is the Chinese Reddit. So definitely a possibility for him to go basically like anywhere. I think that needs its main support. I don't think there's a reason to not pick him up. He comms in English because from what I've talked with No Hill, they comm in English and Korean most of the time. Like there's very little there is still Chinese like comms in the team because it is a mostly Chinese team, but they comm a lot in Korean and English. So the comms is an issue. It's not like you're bringing in a Chinese player to like who only speaks Chinese, right? You still have the ability to comm with like English and Korean players. So I don't know why he's not now. I think Chengdu would have I think they should have signed him instead of Nisha, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, that one seems weird, no? Where it's like not a player who was, again, haven't followed Contenders very closely, but not a name that I've heard thrown around a lot. Whereas, Hoyo-chan /
Super Rich.
Super Rich is a name that even I remember when I covered it. So
Nisha was Illusion, and you had some choice words about Illusion.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Illusion. Not a gigantic, not a Home Depot big fan, let's say. So
yeah, so. I think Super Rich and D is like the one where it's like I don't get that one either. Like realistically, I think based on the whole performance he's had this season, the whole performance he had through Gauntlet, he should also have probably been given some sort of role in an Overwatch League team. I think he deserves it.
From what I heard, he tried with all 4, and all 4 of them seemed to not good enough to.
Really?
That's wild to me.
Surprising.
All 4, they all tried him and say they didn't like him.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Yep, that hurts.
We'll have to see. Now, to be fair, hitscan is a role that is dedicated hitscans, right? So let's be very clear on who we're talking about when we talk about hitscan. You know, mid to long range. You know, McCree, Ashe, Widow. These kind of are the staples, right? It is a role that I wouldn't say is being phased out, but it is very difficult to compete with. There are some incredibly talented, like, and again, some of the world's best.
That's the thing. That's probably also like, if this ends up on Reddit, like the context is
it will.
It's not that they don't like him. They don't like him as much as their designated players. Right.
Okay, so if it's that 4, that means that that means like MYKaylee, Jimmy are the 2 that like got over Diya, which
is, I mean, you fill us in. That seems very surprising to me, at least.
I mean, theoretically, it looks like it's not even Shanghai is necessarily off the table, but it would have been, right? Like, because they have Molly, right? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, Molly comes in Korean, so.
I mean, Diya was on a team with them.
Diya also,
should be able to, right?
Yeah. Diya should, like, Diya also has like an English and Korean calming structure around him. Like, anyone on Team CC can go to a different team in common Korean and English. Like that's just something that you should, whenever looking at these players, realize it. And then, so like with Diya, like, so MYKaylee didn't like play that much this season, actually. Like, realistically, played mostly back towards the back end of the season because it was a lot of Don't Say, actually, or I think it was Don't Say. Yeah, Don't Say was the one who was playing a lot. And then MYKaylee comes in on Ashe, has a pretty decent performance, but it's every time I look at it, it's Team CC who's like the best team, and who, like, whenever they play Billy and Team CC play, Diya just dominates. So like these players between like Jimmy and MYKaylee had to have performed insanely well in trials, and Diya must have like performed like really bad, because based on like the eye test of during the season, it blows my mind that like Diya wasn't able to get in over those 2. And I mean, you could probably, I mean, I think, I don't know about budget or anything, but like Jimmy and MYKaylee are probably players that you got probably on the cheap. Like, you didn't have to, like, there was probably no reason to like buy them out. Like, Jimmy was on, I think he was on like Flag or some team that I don't remember exactly.
Jimmy was on Ultra Prime Academy, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the old the Guangzhou team. So he was on the Guangzhou team, who did like awful this season, by the way. Like, really bad.
8th twice.
Yeah, they
season 2.
I don't remember them because I didn't see them like I saw them once, I think, during the entire season.
Right, because you guys had like the weird broadcast schedule where like you got fed specific VODs, right?
Yeah, we only see the semis and the grands on the English broadcast, and I didn't like. I saw Ultra Prime Academy once, I think.
Gotcha.
Jimmy, to be fair, is extremely good, and like everything I've heard from like the people who have talked about MYKaylee and Jimmy is that they're insane aimers. Like, these are mechanically extremely gifted Chinese hit scans. And like, this is what I kind of mean when I said this was like a renaissance of like Chinese hit scan, is because we haven't had like a moment where there's been this many good hit scan players in China. Actually, it's mostly been like projectiles. And then the last time we had like a really good hit scan crop of like Chinese players was like LiGe and Yang Zhelong. We haven't really had like insanely good hit scan players coming out of this region, and now there's like 5 of them that I can name off the bat that are like extremely talented. So I think, all things considered, from when I look at Jimmy and MYKaylee getting in and Diya not getting in, I think it has to probably go down to like the trials. If what Yiska's saying is like true, that that sucks, because I think Diya definitely, based on his performance throughout the entirety of like Gauntlet, Season 2, Season 1 this year, deserves probably to be in OWL.
It's interesting in the sense that I feel like we've had this discussion about the importance of trials. I remember talking, I think it must have been early Season 2 with Bare Hands about that specifically on a podcast, where we said like, it feels like what you should be doing is looking at the player's games, looking what he actually does in officials, and then you have dinner with him, check out if he's a sound person, and then you sign him without a trial. Like, that was always my idea of like, how that, like, is that something that you could do if you have enough tape of the respective player in high pressure situations? That's most definitely the case for Diya, right?
Yeah.
So
100%.
I imagine that there must be something intangible that this player doesn't have to the degree that they want it to want him to have, or that they value trials higher in terms of like trying to sign the player, which I fundamentally don't really like. Trials should be like a thing where you check for specific attributes, not the overall quality of a player, which is very much proven in high pressure situations, actual life games.
I mean, Diya's the best player in Chinese contenders. Like it's not really close. Like realistically, like he is the best player coming out of that region, and the fact that he's not now is a bit weird to me, especially because there were opportunities for him to go. Like there are hitscan openings. There were on Chengdu. There were on Charge. I mean, not on Spark because Spark is Spark, but like at even Shanghai, if they're bringing in Mali, why not bring back Diya? I mean, they released him, but regardless, I think that there were openings for Diya to go to Owl, and they just were passed up. And that's, I think, for a player who has dominated the region, who has been the best in their region, like it sucks that they can't go to Owl.
Yeah. Also, theoretically, I don't think it needs to stay with these for Asian teams either.
No,
I think I think, for instance, like recruiting for those that are going over would have been an idea, right? Like if he has the English Korean comms down, you have such a long off season. You just get him in. You have half a year. Like as a teacher of languages, that's plenty, dude. That's plenty of time if you dedicate the person to regular English or Korean classes. And trying to, you of course won't get them fluent, but you will get them to a point where there's like a point in language learning where you're now able to infer meanings of words you don't understand and also feel sort of kind of secure in having conversations. And that's like the point of exponential growth where like language learning now is just a passive process that you can get through by just being the environment of the language, right? And 6 months, I feel like, is plenty if you have like 3 to 5 lessons a week.
At that point, I mean, not to completely go into a language tangent, but when you're talking about hitting that point, is that something that you feel like could still cause people issues, especially within these high pressure environments when trying to convey like large kind of big picture ideas? Sure. I feel like that doesn't get kind of covered enough when it comes to like, oh, just get them a translator, or oh, get them like, it still weighs on people to have to not be able to like properly say what they mean. I feel like is incredibly frustrating and is a stress in and of itself, even though you give them as much resources as an organization as you can, right? When it comes to, I had a point that I was going to make and I completely just lost it. But when it comes to Diya in particular, Kenobi, if you had to reach and not speculate as to why, but does he have any tendencies? Is he overly aggressive? Like he's not the perfect player ever. So like, where do you feel like you've seen criticisms, or where have you actually actively given him criticisms when covering him within China?
I mean, the thing about Diya in China is that it almost does sometimes feel like he is the perfect player because he is, I think, a step above a lot of the players in China. Like China, to be fair, is a very top-heavy region, I would say. There's 3 teams that I think are extremely good, and then the rest kind of fight each other out for it. The 3 being like the academy teams, and then not Guangzhou's team because they've had a really bad time. But the thing about Diya that has, I mean, when he's played his tracer, I think at sometimes has been like a little bit over aggressive in a few moments where I think that's really like when Team CC struggles, I think they struggle the most when he's on tracer. Mostly because innovation has to go play Sombra, which is the biggest issue, but still, like, I think the tracer can definitely be worked on. It's a very important hero. It's not like it's bad or anything, right? I still think it's the second best in China, but if they're like when you're taking that next level into Owl, you're scrutinized to like such a higher level and you're playing against much better competition. To be honest, the tracer competition in China isn't that great. You have the best one on your team, and then you're the second best, and then there's like 3 others beneath you, right? So I think there are some tendencies with Diya where his overaggression gets the better of him on Tracer. I think hitscan, like if you're just talking about like Ashe, McCree, Widow, those are basically like in China.
Those are Diya staples.
There's his staples, right? There's really nothing I can say negatively about any of those heroes because he is so dominant on them in China. And even in Gauntlet, like they smacked a lot of the time with Diya on like a lot of these hit scan roles. So the speculation I would have as to why Diya isn't in Owl is it's a money thing. You had to pay, like probably had to pay for like a good amount for him. Like this isn't like I don't think Diya is a league minimum player, right? I think that's
sure.
That would be something that I think is a possibility, or that the next step going back to Owl, the competition got so much better overall, and just in that like 1v1 scenario where you don't have Team CC necessarily being the catalyst for how well you're doing, is something that that could have possibly hurt him, where you're going into an environment where you don't have this like insanely good communication structure with a team that is insanely good around you, where you kind of have to fight for yourself a little bit more. And that's where maybe it fell apart for Diya in those trials, because when he's on Team CC will feed him. They will feed him every resource possible. Like he is the carry of that team a lot of the time. Gaga just goes off and does whatever he wants on ball, and then Diya just stays back and shoots people, right? That's a lot of how Team CC played when it was this Sigma ball meta. So I think like Sigma shields would also be given to him. Like every resource was given to Diya to have Diya be the one to be able to realistically carry the team. If in trials he doesn't have that, that's possibly an avenue where I think that probably could have made the trials look a little bit worse.
Now you kind of mentioned Gaga, and funnily enough, somebody mentions an old, Chinese player's name, Ji Qiren, as some of the more notable Chinese main tanks coming over and not being the hottest of hot. Ameng, to his credit, has a fantastic ball, but let's face it, not much else. As much as we try to defend him at every corner and every avenue.
You don't remember his Orisa dude from Moss 7 Club?
Oh, I remember, but it don't hold up. It definitely did not age like a fine wine.
No,
it did not. Is Gaga the type of player to come into Chengdu and kind of reshape how we think of Chinese main tanks? Is this the next coming of Christ in your eyes?
Well, I mean, he's the total package, right? This guy can play like anything. And I mean, to his credit, his ball is like the best in the world, I think, at this point. Like I haven't seen Ameng play ball in a while. So very much recency bias here that I'm talking about. Gaga's like, I've seen him. That ball in like all throughout Gauntlet that was ball diff. The grand final, it's like that play on Volskaya where he goes and he kills Stalker and then pile drives him, and then after 20 seconds just vanishes from like the face of the earth of that map, and Chengdu, like, and not Chengdu, Team CC win. Like, that was nuts. That's just like an insane play. That's incredible game sense, awareness, everything that like a ball player needs to have. And then he can also play like Reinhardt. He can play Orisa. He played the double shield. Like he's played in Rush before during the season. What's the other main tank that I'm missing? His Winston's fine. Like it hasn't been played that much because Winston's not like been a staple in the meta, but like it works. They played Dive this season. So he's Ameng. He has the capabilities of Ameng with the ball, but he also has everything else. He has the other 4 main tanks that he can play in his repertoire as well. And they're very, very good. This guy is not Gusha level, I think, on like a lot of his here. I mean, his ball, I'd say probably is like, if you're comparing like Gusha's Winston to Gaga's ball, I think they're on the same level in terms of like their capabilities. But this is the next best main tank coming out of China. And I don't really think it's close. Like he's the next coming of like, whatever of Christ, like as you were saying.
Sure. Now that's definitely been a big attack vector for criticizing Chengdu in the past, has been their tendencies to rely maybe, let's say, a little too heavily on their comfort play, and their main tank definitely doesn't stray
flex
away from that or have the ability to flex to kind of.
Well, no, they brought in Ating, remember?
Yeah, another one that really kind of swung and missed.
Every time I think of Ating, I think of Yiska's tweet of the of like this one feeds alone of the whale. Yeah. Every single time. Yeah. Every single time I think of 18, I think of that tweet.
Somebody who looked kind of promising coming in, but did not land. Boy, that was a bad take.
That was a band-aid on like a giant flesh wound.
Yeah. So you think this is more,
Oh, they've like patched up this. They've patched up. They've nursed it. The wound's been cauterized. Like this is who you need as a main tank to fill your main tank role. He can play whatever. His ball is extremely good if it's still ball meta. But if you need him to flex over to other things, he can definitely do that.
Well, do you think that it'd be a little weird to see Chengdu without Ameng?
Yeah, I think it'd be a bit weird. I think a lot of the identity of Chengdu as just like a brand kind of comes from this like Yoda remember like the Yoda chat, all that. I think you need to keep that around kind of for a little bit longer.
For sure.
Can you give us like a comparative idea, like how good like someone like Gaga, for instance, is in comparison to like the top rookies coming in from Korea, like Muse, like Yakpung, and Yakpung, of course, not rookie, but like coming from Contenders. Mag, like how does he stack up?
So Mag is like I think Mag has like his own like echelon, I think, above everyone else. And then I think the step below that is where I would put Gaga. Gaga, at least on like for ball, I actually think he's probably the best ball coming out of Contenders. Like 100%. I don't even think it's close. But like just main tank overall, I think there is Mag, and then there is like those other players like Muse, I think Gaga, and like Yakpung. I think there's like that tier behind Mag. That's where I put Gaga. I think he's right there as like this really capable main tank player, probably going to be your starter most of the time, can fit any role. He's definitely someone who I think is right there.
Right. Like how do you generally think? Okay. There's something in me where I draw parallels between games, right? So those that have followed esports will see that the pattern in League of Legends was first, NA and EU were the best regions. Then, for a long time, Korea was the best region, bringing the best talent and whatnot. And then it was China. And it didn't go quickly at all.
It did not.
But it sort of like foreshadowed that this would be something that is in development. Do you think that's a fair, like, are we at the dawn of Chinese Overwatch being
we're a little bit before IG wins Worlds, right? We're maybe like season 6, where I think it was like, was it OMG who was in the, like OMG was at the, I think the league team that was at that point really good with like Uzi.
RNG?
No, the one before Uzi went to RNG.
Yes, it was still OMG. Pretty sure.
OMG.
Was it?
So I don't know why I know that. I think we're right there because we did like China won Gauntlet, and it's not like China won Gauntlet with like a team of like full Koreans. This was a Chinese team mostly, right? Innovation was there, Inspector was there, but 5 out of those 6 players were Chinese rather. So this was a Chinese team, full Chinese, who is the best like Chinese teams to ever play in that region, right? We had LFZ back when like, you know, KT, Joe and I were, you know, on the broadcasts. We had that team who was
the Golden Years,
who was the 6 insanely good.
Not for them, for us.
For us.
True.
We had 6 in like that LFZ team is like, I would say right now after what Team CC has done that LFZ is like the second best team to ever play in China, because I think Team CC is just through hero pools, through everything that they had to deal with, the stress of like this whole year through Gauntlet, is the best team to ever play in this region. I think at this point now you can give them that. And they're an all Chinese team. And with what's happening now in terms of like the Chinese talent coming into Overwatch, you have Shy coming in, you have Gaga, you have Faraway 1987, you have like all of these insanely talented Chinese players who are starting to come up. And I think at some point we are going to turn, because we've already had that one moment where like, remember when RNG in 2016 won like MSI, right? That's kind of how I equate this Gauntlet win to, is like, this is finally where like the Chinese team and the Chinese talent is like able to beat the Korean teams pretty convincingly, like, which is what RNG did against, I think Kingzone was the team that they beat, like, and going forward and like, you know, whatever. But I think this is the turning point where China starts to be less of like that meme region where it's like, oh, we kind of have to dismiss this region, and they're starting to become the major region that they are kind of labeled
always
as now.
Painted as. Yeah.
Like there's the 4 major regions that like Contenders talks about. It's like NA, EU, Korea, China. China, I think now after this Gauntlet win and after the season that they've had with Team CC, I think they're finally at the point where they can be considered a major region by like everyone, and then also like up there, like maybe one of the, like they have the best team in Contenders right now. I think overall China has some work to do, but I think from the top, like where we're getting these OWL players coming from, this is probably the best that we're going to get. And this is probably leading towards possibly like in a couple of years, depending on where like these players go, how they perform, there could be the possibility that like Chengdu wins out or something, or like a team with like a lot of Chinese players, because when IG won, they had Rookie and the Shy, who were both Korean. So like it wouldn't like so, but they were still a Chinese team, right? They still had Jackie Love, they had Ning, they had Baolon. So this is, if we're drawing those parallels, we're a little bit close to that IG moment where China finally wins like a Worlds.
Interesting. Now, staying within Chengdu for a moment, I know that we kind of briefly touched on Nisha, who, if memory serves me, and you corrected me, that's Illusion, who
that is
comes from T1W.
Yeah. He was also on that team when KT was there too.
Yeah.
Way back. Yeah.
Illusion's been around in China for a hot minute. Yeah.
Was going to say that.
Not my favorite main support. Not my favorite main support ever. Kaneki. Tell me what he's been up to, because if memory serves me, he was an LGD boy.
Kaneki was an LGD boy. He was a cat. He was Team Cat boy also.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
He was the DPS partner of Guanglun.
Two people who we will definitely
talk about.
I mean, why not just jump into that now?
So Kaneki was Kaneki was so Team Cat was this. So the story of Team Cat is actually, because I remember Yiska was talking about this kind of a couple shows back, was that Team Cat used to be Team CC trainee, but from what I heard, and like this is just I know nothing official, that I think that there were some issues with the fact that you can't really have an academy team if you're an academy team.
Correct.
So NetEase couldn't like give them, because I think NetEase is the one who owns Shanghai, and NetEase can't have technically Team CC trainee as their as like on their dime, right? So that team becomes Team Cat, but they still like have the ability to scrim Team CC, which is why when Team Cat was a thing, they were so good, because they were basically another leg of Team CC's just dominance in the region. That's why they basically crushed everyone besides Team CC. So that team was really good. It's a shame we only got to see them for one tournament. And it was that meta where it was very much like the Hog, Zarya, Genji, Ashe type of stuff. So Kaneki was very much a Genji player at that point. I think what Kaneki is a substitute for Jinmu, because their hero pools are basically the same. I don't see a moment where I would ever pick Kaneki over Jinmu in a scenario where maybe the Tracer, that's like the one thing that Kaneki has that Jinmu does not. Because a lot of these Chinese players have really weird hero pools in terms of just like what they can play. Because there are players who are like projectiles, but like everyone can play McCree, right? Or everyone can play Tracer. There are these like overlapping abilities. So if you wanted to maybe bring in Kaneki to play Tracer and Jinmu can't, and it's like a double hit scan meta, so you play like Kaneki Jimmy or Kaneki Leave, something like that, definitely possible that Kaneki comes in. But I would expect mostly it to be Jinmu starting.
So I'm going to hit you with two quick questions regarding the comparison between Kaneki and Jinmu. Would you say that Kaneki has the same star potential that Jinmu has? Is this like a fully disagree? Is this a slightly disagree? Is this a I don't know? Is this a relatively
because we didn't when we were talking about Jinmu coming into the league, you and I were like the only ones, and KT as well, because KT was there.
Primarily, like the only ones who, I think, on this one.
Yeah. KT was on the Jinmu bandwagon like at the start. I think Jinmu like shocked everyone with how good he was on Pharah. I mean, and I don't know if Kaneki has that same star power, because Jinmu is a if on the like correct hero, like on like Genji or on Pharah, the dude's a top 5 DPS now. I don't know if Kaneki has that.
Okay.
Because I haven't seen the same like specs of star power that when like Jinmu was on Moss 7 Club, we saw like those brief little like moments where it's like this guy is cracked. Kaneki, I haven't seen that yet.
Now I'm gonna hit you at this. Okay. Does he have the same tendency to feed?
A little bit.
Because Jinmu,
he
that
does.
question would not be admissible in court, by the way. Yes. It's called a leading question.
That's why Yvetal's there.
Leading the witness. Objection.
Yvetal's there on Mercy just to like literally just stand there. It's like, okay, I'm going to die. Just res me. Just you're there. Frame perfect.
And it's very, you know, stylistic, and you know, I'm very much into unique ways of playing games. I think it's very interesting. But Jinmu can be a liability for this team.
Yes.
But also very much a spearhead, right? Like you said, the Doomfist, Genji, the Pharah, we all remember the clips. We all remember being, you know, shocked on Ilios and just being surprised at how dominant he can look in one instance, and then in the next instance, he looks like Arhan's stepbrother. What, you know, is Kaneki in that same vein? This hyper aggressive, you know, super, you know, crazy DPS player, or is he a little bit more tame?
He's more tame, 100%.
Okay.
I think he's much more of like the I'm gonna wait for my Genji blade to be perfect kind of thing. Like measure twice, cut once, where Jinmu's just you know, cutting every
macro
time.
Cuts.
Macro,
if it's up, use it.
Yeah. If it's on like off CD, just, you know, spam that button.
You know, gotta keep my DPS high.
Yeah.
I can't have a green parse.
Yeah, Jinmu min maxes very much.
Yeah.
So do you think that could be maybe a selling point for Coach Ray, who's obviously coming back, who I won't, you know, I'll leave the gushing for you, but when it comes to Kaneki versus Jinmu, is there an argument to have to say that Kaneki might be a little bit more tame, might not be so aggressive, and can play maybe a different style of projectile to Jinmu, who maybe comes in on control to, you know,
that's
play
for sure.
a different style. Yeah,
that's definitely a possibility where I think what Kaneki does is it gives them, when I say he's a sub, I kind of mean that as like, if I'm taking like the best players in terms of like who I want to start, you know, Jinmu's my top, but like there is that ability to have a different type of play style when you look at the ability for Jinmu to play that more aggressive style like you're talking about. And then if you want to play a little bit more laid back, and a meta calls for like a projectile player not to be just like super hard aggro like Jinmu is, then you can bring in Kaneki, which I think giving Ray more tools in a toolkit to do that is definitely something that is very good.
Last but not least, when it comes to Chengdu, we have Yvetal, who is on a 2-way contract now. Does that surprise you as much as it did me?
Yeah, very much. I don't.
Very, very.
Especially because Nisha's the only one coming. Like, if they're moving Yvetal to 2-way for super rich, I understand.
Okay.
Very much, I understand. They're moving him for Nisha, who again is not the person I would have chosen to. Obviously, I'm not Ray. You know, Ray knows what he wants. I trust in him wholeheartedly. But just like for me, if it's like Yvetal is still probably better than Nisha would be, in my opinion.
When it comes to now for John and Yiska, you know, Yvetal is a name that we kind of hold in high esteem, correct? Like this is you know, a solid main support in the league, right? Like this is a kind of a scary loss for this team that is in need of consistent, you know, good players. And I think Yvetal is definitely up there, and it seems like, you know, that's the case, you know, just across the board. Does this concern the two of you when it comes to him moving to 2-way? Is this something that might, you know, hinder the team in the future if he's maybe taking a step back, needs some time to breathe? Do you think Chengdu, as much as they seem to have improved, when it comes to depth and having a more consistent main tank who just isn't a ball one trick. Because let's face it, at this point, I think it's fair to say that Ameng is can only compete on ball. Does questions around main support kind of make you worry about Chengdu?
The thing is, I will have to refresh my memory on what the two-way changes are, what the regulations are as to how people can participate in the upcoming events. Because theoretically speaking, like being two-way is not that prohibitive, especially for someone
not anymore.
Might want to bring in for specific heroes, and otherwise it's just a good way to keep them warm.
Sure.
During the season. I also think that contenders teams are a huge benefit to the teams that have them and can allow for them, especially in the Western context where it's like Boston as a bonus based on having a contenders team still left, right?
Right.
So, yeah, depending on the rules, I'm not sure how prohibitive that really is. And if the need arose, I mean, that's definitely easier than signing a new player to sign someone to a full contract.
Definitely agreed, 100%. Which is why I feel like this is strange for a veteran to be moved to two-way and not to sign a rookie on a two-way. Does that kind of make a distinction in your mind?
Very much so, but I don't have the information to really assess why that would be a sound move to make. Because theoretically speaking, you kind of want that to be the opposite, unless Nisha is just very clearly the better Lucio and Brig, and then that you cover probably 70 to 80% of the playtime during the season if we extrapolate what matters could be going forward, and also take in past data into in mind. Like Mercy was played, but not that much right over the season. So yeah, maybe it's just a reactive thing where you want to keep your ace on a specific hero warm on any other meta specific heroes, so you can bring them in. But then again, like I will have to revisit two-way roles extensively, because I think, especially in APAC, they will play a pretty big role as to how that region will pan out. Just by the fact that, I don't know, it's like if you have a really good contenders team in a region that's this small, that's huge benefit in scrims and in being able to avoid specific opponents, especially for the tournament structure, right? So there we will have to see, of course, like as always, the best way to sort of like suggest yourself to become an all player is to be on an academy team that does promote players. So in that sense, like I'm also keeping an eye open on these. It's also interesting to see like how well Chengdu's contenders team generally will perform. Do you have like a projection, like how good that team will be? Is that too early to say?
No. I mean, they're definitely academy teams usually, unless you're Guangzhou's academy, which has had issues. Well, say.
So let's do a head-to-head for all the academy teams.
Team CC, so they got like gashed gutted. In terms of like all of gutted. So I can't. To be fair though, I have full confidence in like if Super Rich and Diya and No Hill and Mochal, No Hill and Mochal are the two coaches. If they're still there, along with Diya and Super Rich, team's top 3, 100%. I don't like really need to. I have so much faith in those people that I think they can definitely be top 3 just by that alone. And I think they're going to find people as well who. Also Spectre's going to be on that team still. Can't forget him, but they'll find people to close the gaps pretty well. When I look at Team Chaser, they have a Prita I really like on Tracer, Monk, who I think is again the next best flex support coming out of this region. Yvetal on that team's going to be big. The part that worries me about this team is X-Ray and Late Young, who are tanks that I don't necessarily think are going to be that great. So I would probably put this team fourth. Wait, well, let's see. Hold on. So Guangzhou Academy's fourth because I don't know what that team is doing. I'd say Team Chaser's probably.
Are they better than BLG? That's the question.
That's the question, because I don't know what's happening with BLG either. Because if BLG gets Pineapple, I think that's nuts, and I think BLG is going to be sick next season. Which they did. They brought in Pineapple for Gauntlet, and there are rumors that T1W is disbanding. So, if BLG signs like Pineapple and like continues to have this really good academy system, I think they can definitely be the best team. I still think Team CC is probably going to be first. I think that team's just like, even like without, their star players that have been taken to OWL, I think that team can still just be incredible overall. So I think I keep them at first because I have a lot of faith in No Hill and a lot of faith in Super Rich and Diya. I think I put Chaser second, BLG third, maybe like 2A, 2B for BLG and Team Chaser, and then Guangzhou fourth.
You kind of you mentioned a team that is the former home to a player who I'm interested to hear your opinion on, and that's Shy, who is joining the Hangzhou Spark, coming in, and you've definitely given some you've definitely given some glowing reviews. So now's the time to
Are you
double
saying
down.
He hasn't
or
been shy about.
He's definitely not been shy.
Yeah. So Shy is.
Is it? I'm sorry. Can I interrupt you for a second, Joe? Because you wrote these show notes, and because I know so little about the region, most of the time, I couldn't tell if Gush was a word or a player.
A player. Yeah, it's true. Is it a player?
I'm like, what does Gush about? What does Gush about Shy mean?
Dude, there are so many like. Also, they all changed their names going into OWL, which was like Faraway 1987 used to go by Faraway, then changed it to 1987 this season, and then now has gone back to Faraway 1987. Not gone back to, just like mix them both together. Gaga put a 9 in his name for some reason.
Yeah.
MYKaylee was Kaylee, and then just put a MY in front of it. Jimmy's the only one who kept his like actual name from like what I've known them. But yeah, Shy. If we like make these parallels where like Leave was like Uzi. This is Jackie Love, essentially. Like, this is the next, like, incredibly talented DPS player. Probably going to make a run for Rookie of the Year, depending on how Spark play them, because they do have Godsby still on that team, and I don't know how the structure is going to work with, like, the Korean and Chinese players.
Sure.
I think Shy, to be fair to him, has had basically a whole year of playing with the Spark because he wasn't on BLG this season at all. He was basically training with Spark the entire time. So I think this is someone who, when I talked about Leave being like a Rookie of the Year candidate, this is like another thing. Like, Shy is a disgustingly good mechanical DPS coming out of China, probably the best DPS coming out of China right now, because he's like a rookie because he's coming in this season. But this is someone who is probably going to shock you in how good they are, because you haven't seen anything from them for a while, but they are the real deal.
So you're telling me that switch from flex support was warranted?
Oh yeah, dude. Crack.
I remember how many. I'm interested to see how many people, maybe in the comments, even remember that Shy was a flex support at one time. And this is at least like, and no credit if you don't. This is years ago at this point. He started off on LGD as a flex support. So no harm, no foul. If you're like, oh, I didn't know he played Zen. He was very mechanically gifted.
He's a very mechanically gifted player. Yep. I think now the one knock I always had about Shy was that the coaching, I think, could have been a lot better on him, especially on BLG. I hope the Spark team has like kind of like whipped that out of him, where it's like you can't just go on these you can't go on these like giant flanks by yourself and try and make healer plays. Like, this is a 6-player game. You need to communicate with your team. And Shanghai Masters, I think, from what I saw from Shy, I think he's kind of gotten that out of his system a little bit. So this is a Rookie of the Year candidate, 100%. I think one of the next best player coming out of China, hands down. Watch out for Shy.
Now, staying with Spark for a moment, we did kind of briefly mention LiGe on this team and having a great Gauntlet performance. Do you expect him to be a knockout performer, much in the same way we had last season with people like Krong coming into the league and, you know, other just very not surprising, but like surprising to see them compete at such a high level and still maintain that level within the Overwatch League? Do you think that LiGe could be within a similar class coming into 2021?
Bernard's the other flex tank on Spark, right?
Yes. I'm gonna double check.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know what they're gonna do because they have Bernard and LiGe, which is like shouldn't be fair.
Stacked.
That's stacked. Their team is nuts, but I don't know how it's going to work out playing. So if I had to guess, I would say LiGe comes in if Sigma's in the meta because LiGe Sigma, I think, based on what we've seen on Gauntlet, is insanely good. Just cooldown management, understanding of where to place shields, his accretion. Like, you need to have good mechanics to play Sigma in general. And I think he definitely showed that at Gauntlet specifically, that he knows what he's doing. I would expect, so if Sigma's in the meta, I think it's LiGe comes in, and then I think if it is Diva meta or if it's Zarya meta, I would probably expect that to be Bernard more often than not. So the question of like, is he going to have an insane performance? If Sigma's in the meta, yes, I think he is going to be probably that like Krong level of flex tank coming into the league.
Now, kind of pairing slightly down what Fire Lord Arkin had asked, but a question from chat. Do you feel like SeoMinSoo will have a good impact on the Spark? Do you think that he'll be playing mostly within that kind of Zarya specialist role? Because that's what we've seen him excel probably the most at, going back to 2019 in the GOATS meta. Or do you think that he might start to trade time with Shy, with Godsby, and in this DPS rotation? Do you have any kind of thoughts there?
There really shouldn't. I mean, I don't know exactly how the comp structure is going to work or like how he's going to fit into the team with all of that. But Zarya specialist, I can definitely see him being that. If it's like a hard stuck Zarya meta, like it's you play Zarya Rhine, I can definitely see SeoMinSoo being that person who comes in and plays Zarya. To be fair, Shy could also play Zarya. He's very good at that character, even back in GOATS. So, but like if we're talking about like DPS, like maybe Reaper, I think that's where Shy struggles a bit. I think SeoMinSoo could definitely come in that scenario. But if it's like McCree, like SeoMinSoo's not going to play McCree over Shy or Godsby, I think. So I think SeoMinSoo is very much a specialist person on this team. Like if you want to play Reaper, play him on Reaper. If you want to play him on Zarya, play him on Zarya. But if it's like you're playing him on DPS, like you can't play him over. I don't see a world where you play SeoMinSoo's McCree over Shy's. I just don't.
Right. Now, you're kind of hinting at, you know, attributes that I hold at least in high regard. So I'm interested to see where you think, if you had to give an early projection, just not a ranking, right? Just an early projection on how you think the Spark will do. How do you expect this team to land? Obviously, with LiGe coming in and your glowing review on him as well as Shy, this team is very deep.
This team's like cracked, like out of there. Like this team is so good. Like on paper, this team is like incredible. Like you have Gushua and you have
Gusha, Coldest, Mika, Shy. LiGe.
No, who's the other main tank on Spark that they signed?
Just Gusha, LiGe, Bernard, Takoyaki.
Okay, Takoyaki.
But
but like, so this team, like from top to bottom, you look at this team, like you signed MCD, you have Coldest, who's kind of just sitting there if you need Coldest. Your main supports are good because I think Mika actually, all things considered, had a pretty decent performance last season when we saw them. Your DPS line is disgusting. You have Shy and you have Godsby and you have SeoMinSoo if you need. Your main tanks, Takoyaki, Gusha, and you have probably one of the best flex tank duos in the league with LiGe and Bernard. So this team, 100%, I think, should make playoffs. If they don't make playoffs, it's a failure. Beyond that, I think this is, on paper, easily a top 3 team in APAC. Easily. Like, I think they should have no problem on paper getting top 3 in APAC.
No discernible hero pools to kind of throw at them that you think that might.
No, because I think they have like the only issue I could see is like maybe like before Takoyaki is of age, which I don't know when that happens.
I'll take a
whenever
look
that would be.
April.
Okay, so like
18.
maybe before that, where if they have if they have to play like an Orisa meta, Gusha's Orisa is not very good. Just it's not. So that would be one of the issues. His ball isn't like fantastic either. He's very much a Reinhardt and a Winston player. So that would be the one point. But once Takoyaki comes into the lineup, I don't think there is a gap. I don't think there's like a meta that this team realistically wouldn't be able to play, right? So I think they cover a lot of their bases with how deep their team is, how good the depth is, because usually in depth sometimes you have just like players who are just kind of there, right? Just lost, right?
Yeah.
The depth that I see from Spark is just like nuts. Like everywhere I look, you can put basically intertwining players in that role, and the team is still really good and still probably top 3. So in my opinion, I think playoffs for sure, top 3 in APAC for sure on paper, and then I think they could definitely make a run for like Final 4.
Final 4 in APAC or overall?
Overall.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Is that too far off of where you've put them?
I have Spark very high.
Yeah.
I think their entire setup is pretty high. I will say they have depth, just a little disappointed in some of the depth that they have.
Okay.
I thought like there's still even remaining better players outside there, maybe. Like Takoyaki doesn't really like I'm not that high on like the MCD. I'm not sure. Like
you're not high on MCD, really?
Yeah, I feel like you could have had like if you're already spending big time, and this team has spent big time some of the parts, then you probably should be competing for other names. I feel. So.
But I mean, you have Coldest. Like you're not like.
Sure.
I mean,
yes. But
I think if you
had him also last year, and how did that work out?
They played. I think they were playing like. Who was it? That was their Luffy. No,
Bebe?
Not Luffy. Bebe. Yeah, Bebe was the. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you still have IDK, and you still have like a lot of really good pieces on this team. I think this team is.
Yeah, I think just the depth is just so good comparatively. I think just having a large roster going to the next season will just be as beneficial as it was this season. I don't ascribe to this. Well, Shock kind of did it with a smaller yes towards the end of the season. You know, also which tournament they lost, the one where they didn't have their Genji ace, which would have been on their roster had they not downsized. So it's like I think big rosters are still such a boon against the meta-related volatility that it is harder to manage. What's also hard to manage is to teach a player to hard grind a hero towards like top rankings on the respective hero every other week, right? So we'll see.
Or find these, hyper flexible players that can either role swap or just play everything under the sun. Like those 3 avenues.
Which Shy can do. I mean, Shy is one of those players who, if you can put, I mean, not projectiles, but like any hit scan or tracer or anything like that, you can throw him on that hero. He's going to do great.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, as the clock winds down and our time is coming to an end,
I know like that it went really quickly.
Hopefully that's a good thing. I know that you had some spice, so I tried to get it out of you. I postulated as best I could, but it doesn't seem like I possibly may have hit the right landmines. Is there any final thoughts or comments or juice you want to spill on the floor?
So I think just before we go to that, I think the players that there was like a question here about like any Chinese players that should have been an owl. I mean, obviously, just any of the Team CC players, like Super Rich, Diya, Innovation, and then both the coaches I think should be an owl. That's just like No Hill and Mochal. I think all 5 of those people deserve to be an owl at some point. And I know that No Hill is concentrating on university and is going to still be on Team CC next season. But after that, this could like because he was on LGE, remember as well. Like he's part of that team that didn't do well in Gauntlet, but did really well in.
I feel like there's very obvious reasons for that.
Well, Dokebi was the coach was the head coach, and Dokebi was the head coach.
Chengdu. Not pointing fingers, but
I will.
Fair enough.
Because we saw what happened to Chengdu. But to answer your question about like the spice, I think if my dream would have been if like this offseason, if Chengdu had spent the money or had gotten Diya and Super Rich on this team, I think that team is easily top 3 in APAC. I think that team gets to top 4 in overall and has a pretty decent chance of winning Owl.
All right. Yeah.
Here we go.
If only.
That's my spice.
We've found the second coming of Chengdu Bob. I like it.
Very much so, yes. But alas, of course it
didn't happen.
They did not happen.
So now the best chance to win Owl is Spark, 100%. I think that is that they have the best chance out of all of the Chinese teams. They have the best chance at winning Owl.
Really?
Yes.
Over Shanghai?
Yes.
Woo! That's a hot take. Woo-wee!
I don't think.
Why?
I mean, yeah. Let's hear the argument.
I mean, the depth that this team has, I think, compared to Shanghai is just. I think the depth and the way that they can cover everything is, I think, better than Shanghai's. Overall, I think in the long run, I think this 12-man roster is going to really be the thing that takes them over the top. Like Shanghai, like Shanghai got like
9 players, yes, but you know what they also have? Team CC. Like
they do. I mean, you're not wrong. Like, I mean, so like all things considered, right? When I look at Hongshis, but Hongshis is BLG, and BLG is nothing to sniff at, right? But Team CC is Team CC.
Right.
I think just like the fact that this Spark team has so much depth and has depth that's good. It's not just like there are just random players on this team. It's like every time you swap a player, you're not really downgrading necessarily. You're side grading at the very least. And like, there's possibilities where it's like if you're putting in like Shy for SeoMinSoo, I think that's an upgrade. But like putting SeoMinSoo in for Shy in like certain scenarios where specialist is needed, I don't think it's that bad. And like Shanghai, yes, they signed Erster. They have like a sick team over. They still have the MVP and Fleta, but like the depth for me of Spark with how this season might go in terms of just like the length of it, what happens with like COVID or everything, having 12 men on this roster that are really good in their specific roles, I think for the long run in the endurance factor, I think helps Spark so much. And I think they have the best chance.
Yeah, that's my
spice.
I mean, it will be reflected that I'm pretty high on them just because they have obviously invested a lot of resources and have gotten a ton of great players. I still think that's also an interesting one. What do you think of like the mighty AOD reunion happening with Shanghai? Do you feel like, you know, with Erster and Fate coming back to Shanghai?
And DM.
Because I have the take. I think, like, even though Shanghai really didn't hurt in the flex CPS department, I still think there's a very good chance that Erster will come back to just being an absolute nut.
Well, I think he is. I think he's now playing with DM, who I think he's always wanted to play with still. I think that's been documented that they really want to play together again. Going back to like the old LFZ days when they were just disgustingly good together. And now you have Fleta. I mean, this DPS lineup, like between Lip, Fleta, DM, and Erster, is probably like top 3 in the league, just overall. And it just, for me, it depends on like it's just a longevity thing because the rest of the team isn't like as good as those 4 DPS players. Like they lost, I mean, Fate, like I think is a downgrade from Fearless, I would say. I think that they don't really have, like, I think Molly's an upgrade for sure, but I don't know if Molly's an upgrade in the sense that it's going to carry this team past the downgrade that was Fearless, if that makes sense.
Maybe I can bait some spice here. Off the top of your head, would it be 1987 or Molly in your mind?
1987. Recency bias 100% because 1987 looked extremely good in Gauntlet. Yeah. Molly did have chances in Chengdu, like where like we saw Molly was, especially on Ana. I think his Ana was extremely good in what we saw from him on Chengdu, but holy shit, 1987 on Zen during the entire gauntlet was just cracked out of his skull. Like he was winning 1v1s against Sparker in like the backline.
Yeah.
Like the dude's crazy. And he has a really good Ana as well on top of it. The only thing he lacks is a Baptiste, which would be the only scenario where I'd see Nisha come in. Is Nisha comes in to play Baptiste, because Nisha's Baptiste actually isn't horrible. So I think for sure 1987. Like if there was, like I was worried that Molly was leaving overall, because I think Molly's very good. If there was anyone to cover that, it'd have to be 1987. I think there's nowhere else you go. 1987 is, at this point for me at least, and you know how much I love Coldest Joe, 1987 is the best flex support, best Chinese flex support right now. Like 100%, hands down.
Okay, there's one name I feel like you're severely losing here, and you've completely glossed over. Now, are we looking at 1987 or are we looking at Orchid? You know, which one, you know, in your mind, you know, is the better player?
It's actually Tiang now.
My bad.
Because he's changed his name like
that is also a joke, specifically
that's an
from
inside joke.
Chinese.
Joe loved this guy called Orchid. Like he used to be on Team CC. He was like, this kid Orchid, man. He's the next, you know,
he was
the next Jonak. Like he was so good. And then he kind of just didn't go anywhere. But yeah, 1987 for me, best flex support, best Chinese flex support right now. And I mean, proved it at Gauntlet, I think, all things considered. Like, dude, he was like, there were times where like Team CC would just be losing fights, and then just like out of nowhere, just 1987 kills like 2 people off the back on Zen, and then they win. It's just incredible how good that guy is on that character.
There we have it. I think that's, you know, maybe one last quick question from the chat.
Okay. What you got, chat?
You know, friend of the show, Beatdown Boulevard asks, please include Kenobi's take about Poko being better than Fury.
That
give that to the fans. You know, just putting that out there.
He Frenched it. No,
I Frenched it. I Frenched it hard. I'm never gonna live that down.
You know, to be fair, you know who's still remaining on Philadelphia. I'm just saying.
It is Poko.
They'd have a point.
But I said this back when like Fury was definitely the better player.
Hey, whoa! We don't need context here. Come on, you know, I'm trying to jump in front. You know, I'm trying to be a tier 3 subscriber. If you catch my drift.
So when I said 1987 or alarm, I mean that's not fair. It's alarm.
Yeah, that's not fair. That's alarm. Come on.
Yeah, that's alarm. I love Chinese Overwatch, but not enough to be blinded that much, right?
Fair.
All right. Are we good?
That's an hour and a half of me just talking about.
How we did.
I think we're good.
Oh man,
I rambled so much.
No,
I'm
you
sorry.
didn't. I actually have a doc open right now that I was taking a lot of notes.
Truly going back to when we were on the desk.
You know, it's the only way I retain stuff. Well, I didn't do it for this because I thought it would look weird on the show, but I've been writing a lot of my notes rather than typing because I retain it so much better when I write. So
I got an iPad, so like having like the ability to like write it down instead of typing it has actually been really helpful.
Same.
There he is.
Yep, that's the one. Well, okay, I got an IOU iPad. I was only given the pencil and nothing else because they were sold out. So
yeah, see, I didn't get an iPad. I got a separate, you know, style of pad. I got a booby mouse pad from the homie Kenobi casts. So, you know, shout out to all Alliance players. You know, if you're looking for a Tyrande booby mouse pad, let me know.
Jeez, still can't.
You showed that up.
So badass. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Big thank you to everybody who hung out today. Kenobi, thank you for joining us. Before we do all of our closing stuff, any shout outs for the week, link all your socials and everything else so that people can follow you after the show.
So my main social is at KenobiCast on Twitter. If you want to see me talk about more Chinese Overwatch and APAC stuff, that's mainly where you can find me. Shout outs to all of the Chinese English broadcast people who have been helping me really become who like kind of allow me to be in a position to do this. So definitely big shout outs to all of them. Shout outs to you guys for having me on. I was like super nervous coming into this, even though like we talk a lot. I was just like, oh, I have to go on Crouch tomorrow, and then I didn't sleep until like 6:30 a.m. but I had a lot of fun. So thank you.
Well, thanks for coming on and hanging out with us. It was a ton of fun. We could do it again,
please,
many times.
Yeah, we should do it again when Chengdu
wins. You know,
when Chengdu wins.
I don't think there's anybody else we'd rather want on. I think you'd be the
Joe. So me and Joe were watching Gauntlet together when Team CC won, and like when they won, I was just like, oh, they finally won. I'm so relieved, and I was celebrating.
Relief is definitely the theme of the evening.
Was he screaming on top of his lungs?
Well, this was at like 7 a.m.
9 a.m.
It was loud, to say the least. He definitely was cheering.
Well, because like I had to live with the memes about like LG Huya from like the first Gauntlet, and then finally to just have a Chinese Contenders team just win something. I was just like, thank God it's over. Like I don't have to be memed on that much anymore.
Be honest, Joe. Did he say we won?
I did. I said we won Gauntlet. I did. 100%.
I'm gonna leave that, in his lap. I will not confirm nor deny.
I said I can't believe we did it. We won Gauntlet. 100%.
I mean, I think he gets to say that, right? He's a caster of the region, big stan.
Kenobi, watching with Kenobi, it's not even really the stan thing, but it's more like when Kenobi's like watching and something ridiculous happens, like, oh, we beat that? We beat that? It's always like he's involved.
Very active in his viewing. Yeah.
Especially for Chengdu, where I'm just like, where they will do plays that I'm just like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing. Very good. Yes, nice. Good job. Very good. We're beating that. Oh, we're trancing that? Yeah, okay, let's go.
Oh man, this is too much fun. All right, big thanks to everybody who hung out today. New subs, Baldo_TTV, welcome. Thank you so much for subscribing, and welcome back, Leonidas, Beat Down Cass, and thank you, Chris R34444 for the 2 gifted subs, and Ashador for the 500 bits. Whew, lots of different ways to support the show, and appreciate you all. If you like the show, go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Big thank you to all of our Patreon producers. Y'all are amazing. Love you. I promise we'll do some game night soon. And if you are playing WoW, we have a WoW channel set up now in the Discord, in the Discord, so that we can set up more games and who knows what else we're looking to do. So we could do that. Shout out to the week. Where can people find me or find us? I'll go first because I never get to go first. I can find me everywhere at KickedTripod, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, youtube.com/KickedTripodYT. Other than that, I'm streaming WoW a bit, Mythic Plus nights and Raid nights. So it's kind of a nice chill time. If you, I don't talk a whole lot about Overwatch during those streams because I don't have Yiska and Joe to actually provide any real insight or anything like that. But
listen, Tiger King, come on, you can't completely discredit yourself.
I can. I absolutely can.
Oh, you don't get to.
But we talk about all sorts of other things, and still a pretty good time. So twitch.tv/KickedTripod, come hang out.
Go cheer him on.
Yiska, shout outs to the week. Where can people find you?
Well, the power rankings are still coming. I'll adjust a little bit on the Asian one. That will be on Sunday. Tomorrow is 1, 2, 3.
I can't wait.
In North America. I don't think we majorly disagree, actually, Kenobi, on some of the parts. It just doesn't feel good putting anyone last.
No, because I think APAC's such a good region. That's the problem.
Yeah,
is that there isn't like a team that's like that you want to put last because of like either pedigree or just the players that are on there.
Yeah, and it's really hard because a lot of these APAC teams that don't have the same monetary restrictions that the NA teams are under. Like honestly, it's rough being Fusion. Like of course you can assume that they will maybe if scrims don't pan out the way they wanted to, that they might add more players than 7. But like the economic restrictions and then playing in that region without like 12 players, without like
got the money.
dedicated facilities to the well, they do have.
Well, no,
T1
they just play in the
housing.
T1 facility.
Yes,
I
okay.
assume, yeah.
So that point is moot, but without an academy team as well.
No, they have one.
Oh, okay. Yes,
T1.
Very true. Without a good academy team.
There we go.
I think they're handicapped in that way. Now, do I think that still every one of their starters is like really good? And I also believe big time in 9K. Yes. It just depends on how heavily you think it weighs that you're seemingly under-resourced. And the point was not to extrapolate and think, yes, like if it doesn't look that good, Fusion will invest, but rather to say right now, where are teams? And I think I will need to readjust a little bit in that regard, because I did them before Christmas. Feel a little bit differently about things now that they've settled. So I'll change a little bit around.
Cool. Joe, what about you, man? Shout outs for the week. Where can people find you?
Not a lot going on my end. Kind of taking a break over the holidays, as you know, things have not slowed down, but closed up a little bit.
Level up your Horde character.
There's a lot on a lot of things to do on WoW. It's definitely on the docket. Doing that, playing a little bit of WoW, dabbling with the idea of maybe making a few videos over the break, but just kind of unwinding, relaxing a little bit. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Awesome. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get out of here, chat. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. I hope you had a great time. Make sure to follow show everywhere at Tactical Crouch. Just search for it. You can find it on all the podcast feeds, on YouTube, on Twitter at tactical_crouch is where we kind of post show updates. And of course, in Discord at discord.me/Yiska out. Thanks so much for hanging out. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.